So you wrote down that idea and you're getting pretty excited about it. So maybe you shared it with some family or a friend, maybe even some coworkers, and now you're getting feedback. Don't worry, it's okay. Today's video, I'm going to share some personal experience that I've had with getting feedback, and I'm going to give that advice to you so that you can make the best of any feedback that you receive. This is Greg, and on the Corporate Zombies channel today, we're going to talk about feedback. Please stick around to the end of the video to listen to some of my advice that I think will be able to help you. But before we start, what I'd really be interested in hearing is some of your experience with either giving or getting feedback. What did you do with it, and where did it lead? So maybe put it on pause and share down in the comments section experiences that you've had. Before we get into the details of feedback, what I think would really be a good valuable exercise is to have a conversation about what is feedback. And the easiest way that I think I can describe this is there's really two different types, and that is there is criticism and there is critique. So for critique, typically you'll see that your feedback is constructive. It may include things that you might find helpful. It might even include some suggestions on how to do things differently. It is also considered to be selfless, meaning that it's really feedback for you, for your situation. It's also meant to be, and typically can be, specific. So it will highlight specific things and then identify specifically what you might be able to do with that, or at least pointing it out. Also, it focuses on the creation. So it's focusing on the idea, not necessarily on the person who created it. And typically, when you hear it, it feels like it's something positive, something that you can work with. Now, on the alternate side of that is criticism. Criticism is typically considered to be destructive or breaking down, making fun of you, making fun of the book, making fun of whatever the idea is. It's also kind of selfish. It's more about them entertaining or giving themselves some type of good feeling. It's also typically vague. It may just be general in that it says, yeah, you need to do a better job, or this isn't very good. And it's typically focused on the creator, something along the lines of, what are you doing that for? What makes you think you can do that? And lastly, it is typically feeling negative. Sometimes feedback is solicited, sometimes it's not. It happens. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I suggest some of the following things. First of all, be open-minded and listen to what they have to say, regardless of whether it's a criticism or a critique. It's really important to listen to the content. They're sharing something with you, and now it is up to you to decide whether you're going to hear it, you're going to do something with it. Next is to think about not being defensive. Don't take it personal. If they're putting it out there, there's an opportunity for you, again, to listen to what they have to say. So don't take it as a personal attack, even if it might sound like a personal attack. Listen, and you can pick up those details, but it's important, really, really important to not get defensive and also not take it personally. And another piece of advice is don't blame. Don't blame someone else for the idea. Don't blame your equipment. Don't blame your whatever. There is no blame. You got to take responsibility and suck it up and listen again to what's going on. These all are very much complementary here, but really don't take the blame, because when you take and place blame on something else, you are demonstrating that you are not taking responsibility for what you're being given. So that's an important part, especially when you're getting good feedback. And lastly, probably one of the best things you can do, and I highly suggest you do this, whether it's good feedback or bad feedback, and that is ask questions. Ask questions so that you can better understand, and you make sure that you understand the feedback that you receive. You also want to demonstrate an interest in what that person has to say. Ask things like, help me understand. What do you mean by that? Try and leave the questions open-ended so there's an opportunity for them to express their point of view. And again, looking for clarity, again, demonstrates interest and it continues the conversation. That can lead to turning criticism into a critique. Can take negative and turn it into a positive. So listen, think, be logical, do that, don't take it personal, and by all means ask lots of questions. Jot down notes if you have to get an understanding. Don't be afraid to even come back later if it's going to help you to better understand. Now for me, I'll be honest, especially early on, as I mentioned in previous video, I did share some of my idea and the outline, and I will admit I received a lot of really good feedback. Things that were very helpful, things that made me think about what I was doing, but there was also some things that were more in the criticism side. And this is why it's really important for you to consider and be cognizant of when you solicit for feedback. Now, as I said, you may not always be looking for it. Sometimes you're just going to get it. And when that happens, and regardless of whether it is that unsolicited feedback or in preparation for that solicited feedback, I highly suggest that you do some of these things. I just want to take an opportunity before I get to my advice to say thank you to everybody who's watching. I'm guessing many of you may have already given me feedback either through the comments section or perhaps in person, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. It has helped me vastly in improving my idea and the concept for the book, for the videos, and for pretty much everything that I have picked up and I've worked with over this last year and a half to bring this idea to reality. So thank you. And now, for those who stuck around to the end of the video, I've got some advice. 2 pieces of advice are for specifically unsolicited feedback, and the other 2 works under both circumstances. So first is think about what you're hearing and apply logic. Is it correct? Does it have a valid point? Is there something constructive that you can pull from perhaps even the most negative, unsolicited comment? Something that you can work with, that you can turn into something that is more positive. Again, use those questions to help unearth what maybe is underneath that initial comment from a person. And the other second option is always thank the person. Be gratified for getting feedback, no matter how painful it may have been. There's no harm in saying thank you. At the end of the day, the fact that they said something, really, honestly, the fact that they said something means more than the feelings that may have gotten hurt if they delivered something, because you can work with that. You can refine it, you can consider it, and you can apply logic, and you can work through the situation to get to that positive. So sometimes it may be a tough nut to crack, but it's worth it. So always say thank you. Now, if you're going to ask for solicited feedback, here's two other things that I highly recommend that you do when you're sharing with your family, your friends, your coworkers, or anyone. And that is build some trust. Don't necessarily jump in with both feet from the very beginning. Start some simple, easy stuff and work up to it. Build some trust between yourself and the person who's giving you that feedback. Allow it to be a two-way street. There's opportunity for you to give feedback as well, but it really is important that you build trust to do that. And the other option, or the other thing that I really highly suggest that you keep in mind, is make that relationship equitable. You may be wondering, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean is don't always expect them to be the one to come forward and just give you feedback just because that's what you want. Maintain a relationship that doesn't include you talking to them only when you want their feedback. That is a challenging situation for the person that's on the other side, because if they feel like all they're doing is giving and giving and giving, everybody's got a limit for that. Sometimes it's going to be they just don't have enough time in the day. It may not be their number one priority. Even though it might be yours, it's probably not theirs. So you got to maintain equity in the relationship so that when you come to them with feedback, they know that it's not always just about what you want. And that is really, really important. So what did you think? If you liked it, please click on the like button, maybe subscribe. And if you subscribe, be sure to click that little notification so that every time I create a new video, you'll have the opportunity to see the next one when it comes out. Also, if you didn't like it, please share your comments, your suggestions, your insight, your feedback in the comments section. And if you did like it, or maybe you didn't and you left a comment, please share that video. Perhaps there's other people you know that can get some value from it. But really, the number one thing that I want to leave you with as we end today is feedback can be great. All you got to do is think positive and take away everything that you can and make it work for you. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.